It's a country of 170 million people, the sixth largest in the world, with 70 nuclear weapons. And I got a faint nod, I think, from Farid just then. It is a country that I would say, unlike Afghanistan, might not be so willing to stay together. It is a society that is very close to having failed, a society with a privileged few dominating the masses of the Pakistan people. And we see the latest bit of bad news. For those of you who read the New York Times, you'll see the front page story noting that the Pakistan Taliban are now fomenting really revolution by urging the landless farmers working for big landlords to rise up against their masters in the region known as, that is SWAT, which is not in the federally administered tribal territories, is an area of Pakistan now dominated by the Pakistani Taliban. It's a country in which civilian leadership has never been able to take hold very well. There was perhaps some hope for Benazir Bhutto from having looked at the record of Asif Zardari, her husband, who became president after her assassination. One has real question both as to his very checkered past and to his simple ability to govern at the present time. He's lost several big political fights, and he is not doing well in his rivalry with the Pakistan Army, which is an institution that has been vital in Pakistan's political development, and whose interests diverge certainly from those of the United States. And I speak here of the Pakistan Army's understandable interest of defending the country against India, rather than necessarily fighting the Taliban within Afghanistan, and if necessary within Pakistan. The Pakistan Army and many of the Pakistan people see Indian foreign policy as driven to weaken, perhaps even dismember Pakistan, using Afghanistan as their agent to do so, and therefore the Indian government is believed not to be above fomenting difficulties for Pakistan in Afghanistan and in Pakistan as well. I'll get back to the Indians in a moment toward the end of this talk. The Pakistan state is a failure. The educational system into which we have sunk substantial hundreds of millions of dollars since 2001. The educational system is an absolute disaster, to the point that many Pakistanis prefer to send their children to madrasas where they will learn Arabic and the Quran and perhaps not very much else, than to send them to the state schools. The wealthy Pakistanis send their children to private schools in which they get a good education. It is a society that is in tremendous difficulty. As far as Afghanistan is concerned, I will say, and I'm amazed to be standing on this hallowed podium and saying so, that compared with Pakistan, the news is not all that bad. It's bad, but it is not all that bad, in my opinion. The problems clearly, first of all, are a state which is ineffective, a government that is massively corrupt. Some of you may have seen the article last July when now Vice President Joe Biden visited Kabul as the vice presidential candidate running with Senator Obama, and tried to get into a discussion at the dinner about government corruption with President Karzai. President Karzai simply denied that there was corruption in Afghanistan, and I just want to say, in what must have been a Maalox moment for the American ambassador, Vice President now Biden, threw his napkin into his mashed potatoes, stood up, and walked out. At that point, of course, as the American ambassador, you walk also, and you try to whisper to the president as you pass, "I'll see you tomorrow morning, and we'll sort this out." But it was a very, very difficult situation. The corruption is simply unacceptable. I don't know. It's going to be very hard to change that. The provincial official, the police, the National Police is a disastrous organization that we are trying to help fix, and the provinces often are ruled by people who would be called warlords, who are in cahoots often with the producers of opium, the people who control the opium trade. That's the good side of the news, and sometimes in cahoots with the Taliban, and at times the Taliban and the warlords are the same people. That leads me to opium, and just to say that this is a disastrous problem that no one knows how to fix very well. Everyone knows that the answer is not simple eradication, because you are taking the livelihood of the people who till that crop, because they can make a living out of it, as opposed to tilling other crops, out of which they will make a much lower living if they make a living at all. So various schemes are proposed: crop substitution, buying the crop, you name it. The solution has not yet been found. And then thirdly, there is this problem of the struggle for the hearts and minds of the Afghans in the southern and eastern part of the country. Let me then move quickly to a conclusion, and to say that there are at least three reasons that I see for some optimism with respect to Afghanistan, and I'm going to say them very quickly. The first one is that we are in this for the long haul. There are actually more than three reasons. I think people are speaking of a generational commitment, and I think that that is what we face. The second one is that there is a lot of good news in terms of what has happened. Afghanistan has been put back on its feet as a state by several elections, and the civil society is developing, and the area of the country, the non-Pashtun areas to the north, are in good shape, comparatively speaking. Thirdly, I think that we recognize what needs to be done, that the struggle, both in Afghanistan and Pakistan, cannot be largely military. I think our military is doing a wonderful job, and I have been privileged to speak to units who have been deploying to Afghanistan as part of the leadership development for education for a sustained peace, LDESP. Google it, it's an interesting operation. The military makes a serious effort to train our people. And I just want to say here how impressed I am both by the sophistication and the optimism of our sometimes gray-haired people, if we're speaking of the National Guard, and more youthful people, if we're speaking of the regular army, who are going to Afghanistan. We owe them a tremendous debt of thanks, and we should all be very, very proud of them.